Follow us on social media and please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any updates from our ALS experts.
Hey everybody, good to see your faces tonight. It's another Wednesday, family extended, right to your living room. Glad to see you all. Lisa, it's all yours.
Good afternoon and evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lisa Deegan. I am part of the Everything ALS team. Our entire team has been affected by ALS, and my younger brother, John, lost his battle a few years ago. So this is why I am involved. Thank you for joining us on our expert webinar series where we bring the experts directly to your living room. We're excited to bring you tonight's presentation, Assistive Technology for Communication, from selection to customization. We welcome Bridging Voice, a nonprofit organization who will be sharing with us resources that they provide to help people with ALS by supporting all of their technology needs related to communication and computer access. After the presentation is finished, we're going to have Q&A, and that will be followed by our non-recorded portion. It's a private session that you can meet and connect with others within our community and talk about whatever's on your mind. Before we get started, two quick things. Please consider signing up for our voice project to help end ALS. With your help, we are conducting citizen-driven research to help with an earlier diagnosis through digital biomarker discovery that will help accelerate treatment options for ALS. Visit everythingals.org/research to learn more and to sign up today. Also, I wanted to announce Everything ALS has a new podcast called Stories and Innovation in ALS. It's currently on Spotify and has been on our YouTube channel. So you could catch it at either place, and we share stories of people affected and those who are working tirelessly to innovate in the ALS space or help find a cure and also work with care. So please email me, Lisa, at everythingals.org. If you'd like to share your story. So now I would like to introduce our presenters for tonight. Nachum Lehman, he is the founder and technical director of Bridging Voice. He has 35 years of experience in computer programming and technical problem solving. In 1997, he founded a nonprofit for individuals with disability and provided technical support that they required for using assistive devices. And in 2006, he expanded these services to serve ALS patients using eye gaze tracking devices. We also have Deborah J. Zeitlin. She is clinical director of Bridging Voice. Deborah is a speech and language pathologist with a specialty in assistive technology and over 40 years of experience evaluating and providing communication solutions for people with acquired disabilities, including ALS. Deborah worked for 35 years at Helen Hayes Hospital and most recently served as director of the Center for Rehabilitation Technology. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Nachum and Deborah.
Okay, so hi, I'm Deborah Zeitlin, and I'm the clinical director of Bridging Voice, and it's really great. I'm sorry, I'm having although I'm a technical person too, I'm having problems with my webcam, so I look like I'm in a witness protection program, I think. So I really apologize about that. But it's great to be here today on this Zoom session today and to be able to share information about Bridging Voice. Our session today is Assistive Technology for Communication from Selection to Customizations. And Bridging Voice focuses on a very specific mission, which is communication for people with ALS. And we have a lot of experience and have gained a lot of insight in this area. And as a result, we can share a lot of information from selecting the right communication device to customizing it. Today, we decided to share with you some concrete tips for improving your communication at 3 different stages of your communication journey, from the selection of your communication device to common challenges with using your communication device, eye tracking devices specifically, and customizations needed to make sure they always work for you. So I'll look at the next slide and we can see the agenda for our presentation tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Bridging Voice. We will share with you some selection tips for communication. We will review some common eye tracking issues and then customizations for challenging cases. And we will leave some time for Q&A. I guess you can type your Q&A questions into the chat. Okay, so bridging, as some of you may know us already, I've seen some of our clients already on the call here. And but for those of you who do not know us, we're a not-for-profit organization that supports ALS patients by providing holistic support for all their technology needs related to communication and computer access. We were created as many PALs were not getting communication devices or really the support they needed to use those devices. So I don't know if you guys know this fact, but data shows that up to 60 to 80% of folks who do get communication devices actually do not use them. This is referred to as technology abandonment. So Bridging Voice's goals are to ensure that every ALS patient gets access to communication technology, and even more so, access help so that they will be able to use them. So all of our services are remote services. All of our services are free of charge. We have referral partners across the country from other nonprofit organizations, other ALS clinics, and other speech language pathologists. So if you want to become a referral partner to Bridging Voice, we will share our referral link at the end of the presentation. So Bridging Voice's philosophy. So we believe that PALs should always be able to communicate. We believe that simple interventions can make a big difference. We have learned many lessons working with over 950 PALs, and we have a lot of information about providing communication support. We believe outreach and follow-up is key. One intervention is not enough, and our team makes sure they reach out to provide ongoing support. They are proactive with following up and reaching out. We believe that technology is a tool and communication is a solution. Technology is only as useful as your knowledge of how to use it. And we believe that a personalized approach is often the key. Every individual is different. We customize solutions for every person with ALS. And my favorite part of the philosophy is we never give up. Okay, I'll look at the next slide now. And so what do we do and how do we do it? So this is a summary of the services that Bridging Voice provides. It could be broken down into 5 categories. We work with PALs and caregivers at all stages of the diagnosis, from early on to very late stages. We are holistic and we provide support with everything from education and resources to training, to customized solutions, ongoing technical support, and innovations. So we are going to look at the next slide. And we're really excited about this project, actually. In July of 2021, we launched our first statewide initiative in New Jersey, offering our free services to every ALS patient in the state. This is supported by Governor Murphy and his wife, Tammy, and a group of really incredible philanthropists in the state. The initiative was created to provide services to all ALS patients in New Jersey. We also provide support to the incredible professionals who are already doing wonderful work with their ALS patients. And we want to fill in the gaps for those patients who may not have access to these support systems for communication. So to accomplish this, we also, besides providing all the services that we do on a typical day, we've created a monthly training series to educate PALs, caregivers, and therapists. So anyone in New Jersey can sign up by going to this website and filling in a really short form. It's newjersey.bridgingvoice.org. Fill in the form. Any person at any stage of the diagnosis can sign up for our free services. Now, we're excited about this project, and we're hoping to replicate this state model across the country. So here is our geographic reach. So we've been around for about 2.5 years, and we're actually up to over 950 people with ALS since we made these slides. We're in about 46 states. We're in 8 countries as well, like Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Mexico, UK, Israel, Canada, Switzerland, United States. As I said earlier, we work through referral partners, and these folks are nationwide, nonprofits, ALS clinics, speech language pathologists, and we do our services by email, phone calls, video calls, and remote services, remoting into your equipment and computers. So let's look at the next slide. So selection tips for communication. This is really the very first step of your communication journey. So now I want to share with you some easy tips to improve communication and the communication device selection process, really just mainly talking about eye tracking, speech generating devices. So I can talk about this topic for hours, but today I'm just going to share a few things that you can keep in mind. So AAC selection tips. AAC, I'm not sure if all of you know the acronym AAC. It stands for Augmentative Alternative Communication. And so I'm going to be talking about AAC, but really focusing on eye tracking communication devices. So I've worked with a lot of clients, and many clients start way too late in looking at communication and the journey of what to do with your communication. I really highly recommend to plan in advance for difficulties with speaking and communicating. It's really important to start early. I always recommend folks to bank their voice and store banked messages before any evidence of changes in one's speech, if possible. These are then stored for future use. It's like an insurance policy. You may never need it, but if it's there in case you do. But many folks wait a little too late to start this. The banked voice and messages can be used in the communication apps on your phone and tablet, and also used in the eye tracking communication devices when needed. So let me just review some of the things you can learn early on about what you need before you even get a speech generating device or a communication device. These things include things like becoming familiar with speech strategies. These are so useful to help one maintain speech for communication, maintain speech for communication as long as possible. A speech pathologist can help you learn the strategies and learn about them and learn how to use them. So knowing about all the various ways to control your phone and computer when your hands and arms become weak, and what options are out there for communication apps. It's really important to become aware of all the manual methods of communication so that when it's needed, you know how to design something for yourself, or you know what to ask your therapist for. These can include things like letter and category and phrase boards that you would point to with your hands, a laser pointer, or with your eyes. Even if you do have an eye tracking communication device, you will benefit from a manual method of communication. We always have our clients have multiple methods of communication. And I start really early with my folks, and I have people keep a running list of categories and phrases that they're ready and have them when needed. So let's talk a little bit now about high-tech communication devices. It's important when to understand when to begin the process to get one. It's important because insurance will fund one communication device every 5 years, as long as you're not on hospice or residing in a nursing home, so you have to choose wisely. To learn about and obtain a communication device, it's best to go to a speech language pathologist who is familiar with ALS and familiar with augmentative communication evaluations. There are some centers that will have a full library of equipment that you can go and trial. Other times, the therapist may bring in vendors that will show you equipment, or potentially send vendors to your home that they can come in remotely and watch you. It's best to try 2 to 3 different devices, as all cameras and software are different and may work differently for you. And remember, don't be rushed by sales reps that want to sell you a product. Take your time. So during the AAC, or Augmentative Communication Evaluation, the therapist will evaluate your current communication impairment, your physical, language, and cognitive abilities, and then they'll do device trials. Because there are so many features in all of the communication devices, your therapist will review your communication and computer needs as well as your environment. So let's look at the next slide. These are some features to consider when looking at a communication device. This is just a short list of, there are many, many more features in the devices, and so many things that the therapists think about when matching you to a communication device. So for example, the therapist may ask you, what's most important to you? And we'll ask you, everything you want to do with the communication device besides communications. So that's when it's really important to share your technology goals. You might say something like, well, it's really important that I access my work computer to read and send work emails. Or you may say something like, using this computer, communication outside is really important for me. I spend most of my day outdoors. So this information regarding the features you need in combination with the eye tracker that works best for you is how the therapist will be able to prescribe a system that best meets all your communication needs. Trialing one device, then applying for funding is not really recommended unless you're in a location that you're not really able to have access to multiple options. So if that's the case, you really want to make sure that the camera works well for you. You can create communication messages, but you can also control the computer, go on the internet, and accomplish all those goals that you are thinking about, that you want to do with this communication device. So we're going to look at the next slide. And we're going to start to talk about eye tracking, common challenges and solutions. So now let's say you have your communication device. That's the first stage. The second stage of your journey is using it. Okay. At Bridging Voice, we're referred many pals that have equipment. Many of them can't use the equipment, and they think that they're not candidates for eye tracking at all. So I want to share with you the 3 most common challenges we see with eye tracking. I hope that what I will be reviewing next will be helpful for speech pathologists on the call, and if you're a person with ALS or a caregiver, that you'll pick up some tips on how to improve your eye tracking. So these 3 common challenges are poor track status, poor calibration, and poor accuracy. This is a lot to talk about. So today we're just really going to talk about track status, because this is the most important thing. It's the first thing you need to do. And without really getting that track status right, you really won't be able to use the communication device. So I'm assuming that most of you have used or tried or seen eye tracking speech generating devices, but I want to just briefly review how an eye tracker works. Okay. So the eye tracking cameras are always on the devices are usually computers that are Windows based, and the eye tracking cameras are always on the bottom of the device, and they send out near infrared light. The light is reflected in one's eyes, and those reflections are then picked up by the eye tracker camera. Through filtering and calculations, the eye tracker knows where the user is looking, enabling the user to control the mouse. So once you look, then you have to select, and you can then select your desired location by using a dwell, looking for an extended period of time, a blink, and sometimes even a switch. So when someone's having difficulty eye tracking, we focus on 3 areas to identify the issue. So the first, as I said, we're going to talk about is the track status indicator. And this indication comes with every eye tracking speech generating device. It's a simple indicator. It tells us that the eye tracker sees the user and knows the distance, the height, and the angle of the user in relationship to the communication device. If this indicator isn't giving the expected feedback, we need to determine the causes before we proceed to the next step. In some extreme situations, we may be forced to accept a substandard track status, but this really is the exception. Unfortunately, we have found that many users are told to continue with calibration even when the track status window is not giving good information. So because the feedback is so simple and automatic, it's really a great tool for identifying many issues. So here we have, and we can solve many problems by just resolving a poor track status. So each company represents a track status differently. Here's a sample of 4 different products, track status displays. The image, as I said, the images are showing how the camera are seeing your eyes, and the information provided by these displays, again, are distance, height, and position of the eye tracker in relationship to the person using it. The track status display helps to position the device. So once you're looking at this track status display, and you're positioning the person and the device to get it right. So actually, looking at these 4 images These are 4 perfect track status images. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. So as I was saying, and I like to repeat it because, you know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, saying it a couple of times, you get a little bit more. So the track status displays are simple, but they provide a lot of information. So they are often overlooked, but spend the time to check them out. So sometimes, though, when you look at these displays, you think you're setting up the device, you think it's set up really well. You're saying, well, I've got this right. And then you look at the track status display and you can still see that there's a number of issues going on, even though you think that the position of the camera and the devices and the person is really good. So here are some of the things that you can see in the track status display that will alert you that there is an issue. You can see things like it could be out of focus. You can see that the distance indicator may be fluctuating. You can see the eyes may be flickering, or the eyes could be solid and then leave that area and they disappear. They come and go. You can see maybe one eye, or maybe you're not seeing any eyes at all, or it could be out of focus. So if you see any of these issues, the first thing to do is to modify the position of both the device and the user. Many times doing that still doesn't solve the problem. So we're going to go over some of these things and what you would do. So if moving the device does not change the track status window, what should you do next? So the first thing I do, and my team does usually, is that we try to determine if it's the issue is due to the device or if it's due to the patient. And we do that by taking the device away from the patient, putting it in front of someone else that's in the room, and seeing how the track status looks with another person. If this is really a simple but very telling thing to do. And if the track status is good, you know it's not the device and that it is the client that's using it. So many of our issues identified by the track status can be also observed by looking at the user looking directly at the person's eyes or checking out the environment. As I mentioned before, the position of the speech generating device in relationship to the patient, specifically the distance, height, and angle, is really important. And really one of the most important things and the most common problem I see is the position of the patient. And this is really paramount. The person's head that's using the device needs to be supported, and the patient needs to be comfortable. When I say supported, you really need to have something right behind the head that it's not moving very much. I'll give you and so, you know, how we determine this is by turning on a video. So if we're remoted into the computer, we turn on a video and we look at the environment. I'll give you an example. Recently, I saw someone who had a great track status. Calibration was great. He was able to use the device accurately, but after a couple of minutes, all of a sudden the accuracy was off and it was on. It really wasn't using it well. So what do? I turn back on the track status window, take a look, and I see that the distance indicator is moving. So what do I do next is I get onto a Zoom call, Zoom or a FaceTime call, and I take a look at the client. The person looked great, was sitting up well, and so I asked the caregiver, you know, just walk around the client and let me see what's really going on. And as he started to walk around, I could see that patient sitting in his wheelchair upright with a pillow up behind his back, but his head, nothing was really behind his head. There was like 3 inches between his head and the chair, and his head was moving. Move that pillow up, head was supported, great track status, total accuracy. So something that simple can really make the difference in using the communication device. Something else that can be identified by just looking is droopy eyes. Droopy eyelids can be a big problem as they can partly obscure the pupil, and this can contribute to great difficulty in accuracy. On the track status display, it may not be obvious, or you might not see any eyes at all. So when doing a remote session, how do I look at this? I turn on the webcam of the computer after asking permission, of course, and I can look at, you know, someone's eyes and see what's going on. And the solution for this is simply, it could be, you know, raising the device up a little higher that the camera has a better view of the eyes. And the head's going back, and you can see the eyes a little bit. They're looking up a little bit more. So that's a simple solution sometimes. Something else that we can see is something blocking the camera. Very often an NIV mask can block one's view, the camera's view of one's eyes. And as I said, all the communication devices have the cameras on the bottom of the device. So here's a video. I have a video to show you this. It's a great video. We're able to turn on the track status and also see the person. So what you'll see here, the person is wearing an NIV mask. At first you see great eyes in there and they disappear. And you can see every time she's breathing and moving up a little bit, the mask is obscuring the cameras. So you can see in the tracks, if you watch the track status, you can see that, what's going on. So this is a great way to look at the person through the webcam and then also look at that track status. And the solution for this, again, is changing the position of the device, raising it up so hopefully you can, the cameras aren't being obscured by the mask. Okay, glasses. Most glasses can be used with eyeglasses. Most eyeglasses can be used with eye tracking, but there can be many different issues with eyeglasses. Issues with glasses can include something like a shiny frame, size of the lens, progressive lenses using different parts of the lens at different times, where the patient is wearing the glasses on their face. Are they looking over the glasses sometimes? Are they looking through them? Are the top of the frames, if it's a thick frame, in front of the eyes, blocking the camera? So the first step, if you think maybe it could be eyeglasses, just to take them off. I have a great video to show you on this. We're going to go to Nachum to 31. So here again, you can see the person's in pink, and you can see the track status in the person, and you see a distance indicator once in a while, and the eyes are there. She's right in front of the camera. It should see her. It's in a perfect location, but nothing's showing up. As soon as the person, her eyeglasses are taken off, here we go. Her eyeglasses are taken off. Whoop, there they are. Eyes perfect. Distance indicator is perfect. So, we can see a lot. This track status gives you a lot of information. Solution for this is new glasses, new frames, new lenses. So that was an easy one, right? So all of these issues we were able to see to help us figure out, what is going on with eye tracking. But there are also issues that are not always obvious to the naked eye. So these include things like dry eyes, dilated eyes, different eye conditions like cataracts. Even if you had cataract surgery, some lenses are a problem with eye tracking. Medications, this is a big thing that is a problem with that some medications can cause dry eyes. We always get a lot of calls from folks having accuracy issues with the eye trackers in the springtime, allergy season. And after asking a lot of questions, we find out that they're taking a lot of antihistamines. So not only are they drying up everything else, but they're also drying out their eyes. So, we end up turning into like a Sherlock Holmes. We ask a lot of questions to get to the bottom of why someone is having difficulties with eye tracking. We can usually come to, a reason of what's going on after lots of questions and lots of trials. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. So we touched on, tonight so far, we've touched on the selection of, we touched on the selection process of getting an eye tracking communication device, and I shared some common challenges of using an eye tracking device. And now I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Nachum Lehman, the technical director of Bridging Voice, and he will talk about customizations for more challenging eye tracking issues. He will review some very specific and successful customizations we have created for people with ALS who are not having success with eye tracking.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, hello, everyone. I am the technical director at Bridging Voice, and one of my main functions at Bridging Voice is to come up with solutions for pals who have tried all of the above techniques to improve their eye tracking by improving the track status, their calibrations, their accuracy, and for whatever reason, they're still experiencing difficulty communicating with their devices. Communication devices are actually way more powerful than most people realize. sometimes a small modification can save a user hundreds or thousands of eye clicks per day. And that translates into a lot of wasted energy, unnecessary fatigue, and frustration. One very quick example that I like to use is that one of the most popular eye tracking devices comes without a question mark on the main keyboard. And that means for every question the PALS asks during the day, they're required to go to a punctuation screen, hit the question mark, and then return to the ABC screen. And although that doesn't sound too bad, but that is 2 extra clicks for every question asked. And we all know and have probably heard that someone with poor accuracy, those 2 clicks can easily turn into 10 or 20 extra clicks for every question asked. So this is really an important thing to address. One of the very first customizations we offer new clients is to change the /, which comes with that keyboard on this eye tracking device. We change it into a question mark. Very few people need a / and they do need a question mark. So that's one of the very first customizations we do. If anybody is on this call that is actually using an eye tracking device today, I am sure that they're saying to themselves, I can't believe we can get rid of that useless / and change it into a question mark. There are dozens, hundreds, and there's thousands of very quick and very useful changes that can be made to a communication device's software. So you just need to be informed and that it can be done. And you just need to think about what you'd like to change to make your communication experience easier. Tonight, I'll be showing you a variety of our most popular customizations, some of which have made PALS communication easier, some of which have given them features which were crucial to their care, and some of which have literally given back communication to PALS. With that said, let's jump in and I'll start some of this demonstration. So the first customization I'd like to speak about tonight is our QWERTY 9 Smart Backspace keyboard. This is a customized keyboard which allows for someone to use a standard QWERTY keyboard, which most people, most PALS, when they get a communication device that's controlled by eye tracking, they like to stay with a QWERTY keyboard, a standard keyboard layout. And the issue is that a QWERTY keyboard requires 10 buttons to fit across the width of a screen. And that screen may be as small as 12 inches or as large as 16 inches, but very often having to have 10 buttons across the screen really inhibits the eye tracking accuracy. And one of the customizations we did, which is so simple, is that we took the P, which is normally on the right of the O, and we put it below the L. And this gives us the ability to give PALS a regular standard keyboard, but it only has 9 buttons across the width of the screen. And that gives you 10% more area in every one of the buttons, and it improves eye tracking accuracy tremendously. So this is one very simple customization that has a very big impact on accuracy. A second relatively simple customization that we do for PALS is when you're using a communication board like this one. So if you're typing something and you want to clear the screen. So normally you would just press the clear all button. And typically you would just have 2 choices on the clear all. Do you want to actually clear the text in that message window, or do you want to cancel that? But we've seen so many times where someone was trying to actually speak their message, or they were trying to hit the backspace button, and instead of hitting that, they hit the clear all button because it's so close. and their accuracy caused them to hit the key to the right. So instead of them having to go back and just cancel the clear all command, we just put in some extra buttons in that pop-up. So in case they meant to actually hit the backspace or the speak button, they are able to hit that key right here, hit the backspace, and then they go straight back to their communication board. So that's another simple modification that can help people save, again, hundreds of clicks a day. And every click costs a pal's energy. And that's what we're trying to save. These are simple modifications. The next level of modifications that we do for our clients are ones that require quite a bit of programming, but some of them are really important. If any of you have ever used an eye tracker or have seen someone using an eye tracker, you'll see very often where if someone's trying to type the word hello, they'll type the H, and then they'll be trying to get the E, and instead they'll hit the R. And well, the easy thing is you hit backspace. The problem is that whatever reason was causing them to hit the R that first time, it may happen again and again. And we've seen pals that will try to type hello and they'll hit R backspace 20, 25 times easily. And that is hundreds of clicks just for one letter being wasted. And we know that they don't want the R because they hit the backspace already. So why should we even give them the R? So we've created a smarter backspace where when you press the backspace after hitting an incorrect letter, that letter goes away. So now it's easier for you to target the letter you did want to press. Now, let's say the second time you hit the F, so you still hit an incorrect letter. When you press the backspace now, both of those letters are gone. So eventually, and eventually means after 2 or 3 shots, you're only going to have the E there to target, because even if you keep hitting all of those wrong letters around there, eventually, after 5 tries, there's just an E there. You're not going to hit something else. And this is a way to save hundreds of clicks for almost every letter you're typing if you're experiencing poor accuracy. And this will save you a lot of energy. Really, really important to bear in mind that a customization like this exists, because we're the only address for this customization. It doesn't come with any of the devices that you can get. So this particular one is used by a couple of dozen pals that we work with, and they really cannot type effectively without this one. Another similar customization is an error correction customization that we provide. This keyboard has 12 keys across the screen. And that's because some people do like to have a lot of features on their keyboard. But again, their accuracy may prevent them from hitting the right character. We made the buttons tall, so generally speaking on this board, you won't have issues vertically. So if you're trying to type the G, you won't hit the T or the B because the G is kind of tall. But because the G is thin, it is possible that you'll hit the H instead of the G. So with this board, if you do hit the H, we have 2 nice big buttons on the top right and left of the screen, which give you the choices that are on the right and left of the H. So you meant to type the G. So you just, instead of backspacing and trying again and again, you just go up to the top, hit the G, and that replaces the incorrect letter that was in your message window. And you can type really quickly like this with simple error correction. We have some pals that use this board and they almost never get a letter right the first time, but they always get it right the second time. So if you wanted to type go, so if they just go to the P, if they're trying to get the O, but if instead they hit the P, no problem, hit the O, and then it gets corrected. And the most you'll need is one extra step to go and error correct for the inaccuracy that happened. Another very important board to know that it exists, and if you need it, you'll know who to call. Here's another really popular board that we have, which is a translating board. A lot of people have caregivers that don't speak the same language they do. And this is especially challenging when someone's using eye tracking. So here we have a board that if someone is using their eye tracker, I'm just going to type it in. Hello, this is a test. They can press a single button on their eye tracking device.
こんにちは、これはテストです。
Right now it's set to speak in Japanese, and it will speak out auditorily that message so that the caregiver understands what the PALS needs. And this is such a simple customization. In fact, if I just wanted to change that customization right here, all I have to do is go into our little program here and say that instead of translating to Japanese, I want it to translate to Spanish, female. And click the button.
Hola, esto es una prueba.
This is one of the easiest ways available in the world to use an eye tracker, or even without an eye tracker sometimes, to be able to translate into another language. And this particular customization is available not only from English, it can translate from, we have one client that uses it to translate from Russian to Portuguese because that's what their caregiver speaks. So this is, again, another very important customization to remember. Now I'm going to go to probably one last customization, which this is a little more advanced, and I will get a little techie on you all here just for a moment because it's very important to know about this board. We have many PALs who were able to use eye tracking, and then at some point, because of some reason, they became incapable of using it, and they lost their ability to communicate. And this board is the board that gave them back the gift of communication. So I just want to explain how this works, and it's just, again, something to keep in mind that is available. When you look at this board, it's called a two-step keyboard. That's something that's available in a lot of software, where if someone needs to type and their accuracy is so poor that they need very large buttons, so they can type by first choosing the group where their letter is found. So again, if they're trying to type hello, they would choose the H through N group, and then they would hit this big H on the left side, and that would put in the H for them into the message window. So that's a simple concept that's available. I will type in the E as well. One of the special things that we have in this board is that on the right side, you'll notice predictions, which are word predictions that will assist you to complete the word you're trying to type if the computer gives a good guess. And what's special about this particular board for the people who know about eye tracking is that you cannot press any of the words here. You can't press buttons here because if someone needs such large buttons, there would be no purpose in having small little buttons here on the screen. This is just a visual so that they can see what predictions are available. And when they see the prediction they want, they would click the big button on the bottom right, and that opens up for them the predictions that were available before, and they can then click hello. So that's just a really neat feature to help someone choose predictions. But now let me explain the real power behind this board. As Deborah mentioned before, there are many people who are on medications that really conflict with accurate eye tracking. Some of them may be like she mentioned, scopolamine patch or a glycopyrrolate, the secretion reducing meds. Another really enemy of eye tracking is baclofen. Important for people to realize that baclofen can really mess around with the eyes, and you may see a very, very challenging track status window. And there are times where you just cannot compensate for the poor track status. You can't fix it. You can't go off of those medications. So you have to somehow figure out how to compensate with a software modification like I'm showing here. So one of the challenges that we face are when you have a PALS that their eyes disconnect from the eye tracker every half a second. And that's because of the medications they're on. Typically, the way you use an eye tracker is you're looking at a button, and by being engaged with that button for at least a second, it clicks the button. If the eye tracker loses your eye every half a second, you'll never be able to click a button. And that is the problem that many PALs face when they reach a stage where they're on too many meds to work with eye tracking. So one of the ways that we've been able to resolve this issue is by setting the dwell time that it takes to stare at a button at a very short period of time, like a quarter of a second. The problem with setting such a quick dwell time is that you're constantly having to, every quarter of a second, find your next target. And that's impossible for most people on this side of Jupiter. So because of that, we put a pause. After you click any button in this board, there will be the eye tracking device is paused and it stops looking at your eyes. So what that does is if you're trying to type the word hello and you look at this button over here, the HIJK, as soon as you click that button, the eye tracker is not looking at you. That gives you anywhere from 6 to 10 seconds to find your next target. You go to the H and the eye tracker is still not watching you. And then when the eye tracker re-engages, you get this quick dwell time of a quarter of a second and you can type. Now, this may be a little bit over some of your heads because it's very, very detailed about how the eye tracking works. But I think the important thing to know is that we have a dozen PALs who had lost their ability to communicate through eye tracking, and they regained the ability to communicate after receiving this particular customization. One particular client, not going to mention the name, but there's a video available all over the internet about this particular case. Someone who is a master user of an eye tracking device for 13 years. And he went on to medications which caused him to be unable to even write a single word for close to 2 years. And when we were introduced to him, we realized within a couple of sessions that there was nothing to do about the meds. And we introduced him to this 8-button board. And within, I think it was even that session, he wrote a nice lengthy email to his parents. This was the first time he wrote a correct word in 2 years, and he wrote a lengthy email to his parents. So it's so important for everyone just to remember that eye tracking devices are very powerful, but you may not know or realize their power until you speak to an AAC specialist, until you speak to people who really know how to make those devices do what they can do.
That was great because you really got to show some real live examples, and we love that you guys are providing and helping and coming up with ways for PALs to be able to communicate. I mean, this is everything. When you can't speak or you have trouble speaking and you need to communicate, this is everything to be able to do it effectively. And the fact that you guys make customizations to fit individual needs is awesome too. So we love what you guys are doing. Let's take some questions. I just want to introduce Zoe Laji and James Sagasar, who are our student ambassadors, and they moderate questions for our group. So they will read you the questions. So you sit back and you guys can just answer the questions that they present. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zoe. I just wanted to introduce myself really quick for those of you that don't know me. I have been involved with Everything ALS for about 2 years now, and I love this community. I've always gotten goosebumps after our interactions with this entire community, all of the ALS patients, all of the caregivers, all of the presenters. Everyone just has such good energy, good intentions, and we all have the same goal. So just so much love in this community. And my father was diagnosed with ALS in 2017. And personally, we have dealt with communication issues for so long, and it's so painful because communication is a means to connect with your loved ones, a means to connect with your family, and not just that, but also to convey needs, health needs, comfort needs, anything. And it's more ostracizing than anything in the most lonely disease that I know of. So just wanted to say that Bridging Voice and your work is just so impactful. And I know firsthand just how important communication is for the ALS population. And us personally, our family, Mr. Lehman has been such a great help for my dad and his communication. So just a special thank you to you and your team for everything that you do for my dad and all the other ALS patients out there. So without further ado, let's jump into all the questions. The first one that we got is about voice banking and what different programs or techniques you suggest for people to bank their voices. And there was specifically a question about whether there was a way to use your phone to bank.
Okay, there's lots of different ways to bank your voice. I usually refer everyone to go to the Gleason Foundation, and the Gleason Foundation will fund the voice banking, and then they will refer you over to Boston Children's Hospital, and they have a team of folks that that will help you do the voice banking. And if you need the equipment to do the voice banking, the Gleason Foundation would send you the headset you would need, or potentially a computer. I know that they're doing some message banking with the phone, but I think most of the voice banking really does need to be done with a laptop and a particular headset, a USB headset, at least to create the a cappella voice and the model talker voice. There is another voice called Voice Keeper that you can do with a telephone, actually, but that voice isn't able to be brought into all the communication devices yet. So there is lots of options. So just it's important to learn about them all and then figure out which one's going to best meet your needs.
I just wanted to add to that, with Everything ALS, we have a research project, right? We've actually talked about it, our speech project. If you go to everythingals.org research, we actually help you voice bank as well. All of the data is collected, is yours. So any sessions you do will be used for research, but also it is voice banked. So you have 10 minutes a week session that is voice banked as well.
Hi, I'm James. I'm also going to be moderating, and thank you for the presentation. It's always nice to see that we're continuing to improve on technologies that are so vital for just everyday function. So the next question, I think we got asked more than once, so it's popular. Do you know of any eye trackers that exist on the Linux operating system?
No. I'm not aware. And yeah, wow. You got that multiple times, that question.
I think at least twice, yeah. So we got some Linux users over here.
It's possible there are some, obscure trackers out there, but we really depend on the Windows PC and the Windows operating system to make eye tracking what it is, especially for communication. So, yeah, but I'm unaware of it. But
I second that.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. The next question that we got was, are there any eyeglass lenses that you recommend that work well with eye trackers?
I'll let you take that one, Nachum.
So, well, there are some pieces of, there are some factors that make a big difference. There is, I don't remember the name, but obviously that it should be a single prescription lens is extremely important. It depends. Some eye trackers just work perfectly with a progressive lens or trifocals, and some with some lenses, they don't even see the eyes at all. So single prescription lens is extremely important. It should be a computer distance lens so that it's optimized so that someone can see a computer about 18 to 24 inches away from their face. Larger lenses, meaning larger frames, are better, because if it's small frames, there's a greater chance that the frame will intercept the view of the camera. Less, no special coatings on the frames. Plastic frames are better because they don't make a glare. Now, but there is one thing which I just don't remember the names. I wasn't listening during optometry class. There are special lenses. Some lenses you'll notice, and you can actually just see this, that when you look out the sides of the lens, there's a lot of distortion, and that you can't even see well outside the sides of the lens. So there are pricier lenses that will remove that distortion, and that you can, from all angles of the lens, it will see it clearly. I have run into pals that had glasses that didn't work, and when we got those special lenses, it worked perfectly.
That's great. This one's a little bit beyond my understanding, so maybe you can help me out here. Do you know of any, or could you recommend any AAC/eye tracking tablets with a matte versus a gloss screen?
Well, see, that's really,
Well,
like,
we're talking about tablets or computers.
yeah.
A tablet specifically for this one.
So, I mean, I guess I'm not really familiar with which tablets have, a matte screen as opposed to a gloss screen. But what's easy about that, any Windows PC will work with most cameras. So it's just a matter of finding a tablet that has a matte screen. There's nothing major that has to go into that decision.
Okay, great. So the next question is curiosity in whether the translations for the translation board, is that done through the internet itself, like Google Translate, or is that done within the device itself?
So no, that is done through the internet. It's actually our own little program that captures the message window, sends it in the background through a programming language to Google's Translate servers, and gets back the audio all within a second. So you do require an internet connection, but it is seamless, and we have a lot of people using it successfully.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it works really well, I can say. I have a lot of clients using it. I love it.
Heard it from the source.
James,
Yes.
before you get into the next one, there's somebody using eye gaze on our call, Hira Alawalia. So Hira, do you want to play your question?
That was brilliant. Hello, my name is Hira Alawalia from New Jersey. My first symptoms of ALS were in March 2014. I have a tracheostomy and therefore have to use an eye gaze computer for all my communication. I use the Tobii Dynavox series. I wrote my book, Keep On Ticking, using the eye gaze computer. It doesn't take too long to learn the basics. The main issue is alignment of the head and the eye gaze computer. If I could not communicate, life would not be worth living. When I first got the eye gaze computer, I was not interested in learning how to use it. Not very smart of me. The reason was I didn't want to give up another thing to this shit disease. It's just human nature. Please don't be stubborn like me. I see many of you struggle with your speech every 2 weeks. It breaks my heart. There is great technology available as we heard today. I am here to give user perspective. Please contact me with any questions at keeponticking61@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
That's actually plays very well into our next question, because I believe you just mentioned this, but somebody also wanted to know if there was an alternative to the Tobii Dynavox Windows control with the same functionality, but a better keyboard.
There are about 5 or 6 different companies that make competing products to Tobii Dynavox. So part of that evaluation process is to look at all the, or even before going in to an evaluation, is looking up the different companies and looking at their products, and then trying. It's so when you say keyboard, they're all this keyboard on the display. I'm assuming. So you would look at the products of the features of the products, and then you try the different eye trackers. It's really important that you match yourself well to an eye tracker that's working well for you and your glasses and your environment. The keyboards can be modified. There's different communication software packages in each product, and they allow you to modify the keyboards to accommodate to what you want them to be. They're all programmable. Did that answer the question?
In case, just because I wasn't sure either what the question was, but just in case the question was if there's an alternative keyboard for Windows control, there are other options. I don't think it pays to go into the details here, but just in case that was the question, the answer is yes.
Perfect. I think that's what the question was aiming towards. Yes.
So the next question is in regards to, at the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that about 50 to 80% of ALS patients don't even use their speech technology. And it was in what those primary reasons you think are that lead to technology abandonment.
Well, I was saying it was 60 to 80%, and that's overall, or every population group, or the overall population group of people using assistive technology for communication. I really don't know what the statistics are for someone with ALS, and everyone has a different reason why they abandon it. And a lot of the reason is that they'll get this high-tech equipment and they don't have the support to learn how to use it. So they try and they're not successful, and they can't get back to their clinics. If there's someone with ALS, let's say, they can't get back to their clinics. They don't have someone to come to their home. And so, they give up on it because it's not that easy to use if you don't know what to do with it. You want to add to that, Nachum?
Yeah, I do. Just one little sentence. Without getting excited, just make sure if you can't use the technology, you don't blame yourself. Blame the company, because it's sort of like people automatically assume that because, wow, it's an eye tracking machine, it must be my fault that it's not working. That's not true. Most often it's the company's fault, and it's just a matter of, engaging with them, engaging with someone who can help you.
The next question kind of was repeated in several different ways during the chat, because we know time, especially with ALS, is a big factor. So for those who are unable to voice bank in a timely manner, especially those with bulbar onset, what other options are available? Specifically, is there a pre-voice bank program? And if not, are there ways to synthesize a similar voice from past recordings / videos?
And so there's a couple of ways of doing that. Some of you may know a little bit more even and can chime in. So there is an organization, a company called Speak Unique, and they will take your past audio files and create a voice for you, and you can use them in that voice in Windows based products. You can't use them in many of the apps, only their own app. And there's a way, if you have audio files and you can take out WAV files from those and then assign them to text files, there is a way of taking those and sending those over to the organization, Acapella, and they can also potentially, I think they're working on that as well. So those are the two companies that I know that do that. Does someone know of other companies that are using pass audio files. And you can also use a proxy voice if you have someone that has in your family that has a similar voice to you. Other people I've had clients have other family members create a banked voice.
And that was, you said Speak Unique?
Speak Unique.
Perfect.
Okay, so the next question was what the insurance coverage looks like for these devices.
Oh, that's a great question. So I guess it's different all over the country, but with private insurance and Medicare, there's no prior approval process for funding these communication devices. So if the person that's recommending them writes an appropriate evaluation and hits all it's not really a true medical evaluation report. It's really considered a funding evaluation report, because you have to really dot your I's and cross your T's that when it's looked at, they consider it an appropriate, a report to recommend this type of device. So Medicare will fund, 80% of a communication device. A secondary insurance will fund most of them, anywhere from 10 to 20%. So I've been very lucky in that I've been doing this for 40 years. Don't tell anybody, but you're all here on this call. Long time. I've gotten over my career, many devices funded, and I'm usually successful. So if you write the right kind of report, and typically the Medicare will fund insurance companies follow up with their 20% or 10%. Medicaid is a little bit more challenging, and it's different in every state. And then if you get stuck and you can't get if your insurance company secondary isn't covering the full 20%, sometimes Gleason or other organizations will kick in some of that residual money. But I guess sometimes you come across an insurance company that just digs in their heels and says no, no matter what. So it does happen.
There was a question that was sent to me direct. So somebody had asked that is in lines with this. Are you required to lose your ability to communicate before you can get this through insurance? Or how far in advance can you get this technology before you have to use it?
Well, that's a great question. And if you're really looking at Medicare, you're supposed to not really. So I would say they look at it that you're not communicating well at all, and if you want an eye tracker, that you don't have any other access method. But there's ways of getting around all of that. So if someone is speaking part of the day, but using an NIV mask and can't be understood, you can work some of these things into your report. I mean, person needs to be able to communicate, 24/7, right? And there are times of the day that you're not communicating, or certain percentages you can communicate, maybe 70% at your best, and most of the day you're communicating at 30% intelligibility. There's ways of writing this report. A lot of the therapists are very careful though, and they may not write the report the way that it's supposed to be, that it would be looked at by Medicare to approve it. So you have to search around for a therapist that will be willing to work with you and really investigate, what's going on to be able to write that funding report for you.
Great questions. I know I was very excited to hear about the language availability and the translation for the communication device. The question specifically, though, is how many languages are available for the actual keyboard / the word completion feature?
So it depends on which software is being used. Most of them support all of the popular languages. We've run into a couple that were a little bit difficult. Some of the right to left languages are not supported in some of the good software. So there are some limitations, but almost all of the popular languages are supported.
Great. So the next question is actually a follow-up from one we mentioned before. Which program would you recommend that is an alternative to Windows Control, which has specifically good zooming and a good keyboard? I guess which one is your favorite?
We can't answer that, but it's a great question, but a little bit unfair to some of the companies, especially since we really know which ones we don't like. But I guess, so like we wouldn't talk about that so publicly, but they all have really a good Windows control, good zooming, and they all have a decent keyboard out of the box, and they all can be modified to have a better keyboard that's customized. So there are ways around, like someone asked before, which was, can the keyboard be changed for Windows control? There are ways to change the Windows control keyboard. There are some official ways. There are some illegal ways. There are a couple of ways to change on some of the devices keyboards that the companies themselves don't know can be done. So there are a lot of options.
We want to be respectful of your time, so I believe this is going to be our last question. It kind of plays into that. How can we schedule a consult with you?
So
Put up that last slide.
I know, that's it. Now I get to put up the last slide, which is where I was going to do that. Hold on, because we have there really all of the places where you can contact us. For anyone who is like a speech pathologist or a not-for-profit or ALS clinic, they can become a referral partner at the top link. For people who would like to be notified about our training series that come out once a month, that's the second link. The third link is some games that we have on our website that work with many of the communication software that are out there. There's the New Jersey Initiative sign up like we spoke about before, and then the generic info at Bridging Voice that will get through to someone relatively quickly, and we will contact you and be able to work with you.
And we can send out these links to everybody.
Yes.
As a follow-up. That would be great.
And
Well,
one of the Everything ALS member actually sent you guys an email, I think last week at info, and you guys responded immediately. So thank you for that. It's, it was a great experience.
Oh, thank you.
and we love that you're helping 1,000 PALs. You're in 46 states in 8 countries. And I'm hoping that number just grows and grows as there's more of a need now more than ever for this, as every day we hear of more and more people who need assistance to communicate because they have ALS. So thank you for what you guys do.
We have a question from Chris Curtin. Chris, can you take yourself off mute?
Okay,
There you go.
it's not more of a question, it's more of a testimonial. That I was fortunate enough to meet Nachum on the start of his journey with Bridging Voice. And I've known Deborah for many years as she was an SLP up at Helen Hayes. And these guys have been invaluable to my community here in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. I can't say enough about the work that they do and what they've done and what they will continue to do and the way they're growing exponentially. And so I just want to really reiterate to everybody that's on this Zoom tonight, don't just reach out, like don't be shy. They'll get to you, they'll help you. And I'm just going to use a resource that I was with a family this weekend on Saturday. And I went up to see the patient who is someone who's very verbal, but it's on NIV, but doesn't have the ability to use her hands or her any other part of her body. And I donated, CCALS donated her an augmented device. And Eddie spent like more than 2 hours. I called Deborah, and then Deborah's like, call Eddie. And then I called Eddie, and then, we all partner together. And by the end of the session on Saturday, she was able to learn how to text and email using her SLP device. And it came like within, we stood by it. We like went through all the difficulties. It was a hard time calibrating, but we got it done. And I really cannot say enough about how much I really appreciate what Bridging Voice does. And Nachum can attest that we always say we're like brothers from other mothers. And we really connected right on the onset of when they first started launching. And I feel honored to be part of that growth, and where they are now is huge and so amazing. And the fact that this whole great Everything ALS thing happened tonight is just amazing. So, and then, and I do want to do a shout out to Christine Copley, who works with me at CCALS. She is also an amazing partner to what Malcolm and Deborah and Eddie do. And so
Absolutely.
whether it's CCALS or whether it's Everything ALS or whatever, you know, or whether it's Bridging Voice, we all work together. We all want to help each other. We all just want to support each other. So, you know, just let's like join the community, help each other, and we'll get anybody what they need.
Thank you, Chris.
Wow.
Here with the iPhone, did you want to ask a question?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is our first time talking about assisted or eye assist devices. We have an appointment for my dad later on in the month to start sampling some. And my dad is blind in one eye. So everything I'm seeing on here tonight is, well, like the pictures, it looks like everything is tracked by 2. So is there specifically a device out there that will only track with one eye?
Go ahead, sorry.
But they all support one eye as well.
Yep.
They do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all we really needed to know. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.